I was thinking, sometimes people just get everything. They got all the gifts, They like our show, for example, like we're pretty fortunate to be able to do this show every single morning, have fun, play a little grab ass. And then there's like certain sports stories that come out and stuff that drops and you see the details on it and you go, well, what does that mean? And then you realize, well, why would we even need to sit here and speculate and try and figure out what Trevor Lawrence's contract means when we've got ourselves a special guest every single time somebody in the NFL gets paid, which means it's time for...
And now for more on this, two pros and a cup of Joe, NFL contract analyst, Brady Quinn.
I hate how you guys do this. I really do. I mean, the news comes out, all we get is bits and pieces of the contract, and then I'm supposed to be able to break it down to the minute details.
I'm not smart enough to do it. I don't know anything about finances. You got to help out here.
All right, so Trevor Lawrence got paid, at least according to reports. We believe that's the case based on some of the numbers we've seen so far. It's a deal worth in total value $275 million. 142 of that is fully guaranteed. Another $58 million on top of that is guaranteed for injury only. Hopefully by the time this deal comes out, we'll actually see how those numbers hit, how legitimate this reporting is. Either way, that equates to $55 million per year, surpassing Joe Burrow, who had the previous high water mark in the NFL. So Trevor Lawrence gets paid, the former number one overall pick, who did have 2 years left on his rookie contract. He had the fifth-year option as well as this upcoming season. So they didn't have to get it done now, but as most teams will tell you, the earlier you get it done, the cheaper it'll end up being. So the Jaguars are set. Trevor Lawrence is set. I think the only question that there is to really answer is, was this warranted? Like, did he deserve this sort of contract after what you've seen so far?
No, but I don't look at it as a bad deal. And I don't look at it as like Trevor Lawrence being rewarded. I think this is more so the Jaguars maybe doubling down on their belief that he is going to be the guy. Because like my big question is, what the hell happened last year? Like, I just thought last year was going to be the step he would take. They won a playoff game. They came back and beat the Chargers and that meltdown there. And it felt like everything was trending in the right direction. And then they took a step back and he got a little bit banged up. And so if you're looking at just what he's done and, well, has he earned it? It's like, well, probably not, but I don't look at that stuff. And you've kind of helped me take this more of an approach when it comes to these contracts, that sometimes it's not always about whether or not you earned it. It's about what makes the most sense if you believe that he's the guy. And as you laid out, Jacksonville looks at this and says, listen, we still think he's going to be the guy. So if that's the case, let's get it done now, because these contracts are ballooning and escalating every single year, it seems like. That would be my takeaway.
And the problem is, if you allow him to play out this season, and he has a big season, let's say he surpasses what he did in 2022, his Pro Bowl year, you're going to find yourself having to pay him even more. You've got other quarterbacks who are going to re-up, who are going to extend for even more average annual value, which is basically how you divide just the years into the total value of the contract. They're going to be getting paid more than that. So from the team perspective, it's a lot of money now, but eventually you have to pay the piper. And this is, in this case, going to be cheaper for them now to do it, especially with 2 years left on his rookie deal. Again, not knowing the details of this, what oftentimes happens when teams have a player they feel really, really good about at this point is they can just extend on whatever this deal was reported as and do it after his rookie deal actually kicks in. He gets some signing bonus up front, but they really don't have to pay the full impact or feel the full impact of what the salary cap hit will be for 2 more years based on how they structure it. So still more details need to come out. This obviously hit late last night. We will get those details as soon as they end up filing the contract. We can go online and see it.
So who's next? Tua, Jordan Love. Are they smiling right now? Are there other reps for those guys looking at it going, all right, well, listen, we just keep moving this thing forward and forward. Like, where do we stand with Tua and Jordan Love at this point?
I think Tua will be next. Jordan Love would make some sense too, even though, after one season, and it wasn't even really, one, it was like more of like the second half of last year, you really saw what he was capable of. It sounds like he's confident they'll get a deal done before camp. And let's go back to before last season. He took a much more team-friendly, economical deal when he didn't have to. Granted, it gave him a little more money up front, but had he just played out his rookie deal, he would have really had Green Bay in a tough spot where they would have to pay up, and it would be in a gigantic way because he would have been staring free agency in the face. So I kind of look back on that decision to take a more team-friendly deal and something that gave the team more control as one of those reasons why Jordan Love doesn't have one of the biggest contracts in the NFL right now. For Tua, there's going to be injury concerns. It'll be a more unique contract in the way it's structured from that standpoint. But at some point, I think they'll get that deal done too. I think they believe in what he's capable of. And he's played well under Mike McDaniel. So you've got to give him the benefit of the doubt. They haven't drafted someone necessarily to replace him. So all those things line up to think they're going to pay Tua as well.
$55 million a year. When you were playing, did you ever, if somebody would have said to you, hey, just so you know, coming up not that far away, we're talking $55 million a year these guys are going to be making. Like, did that even...
Yeah, but I mean, that was, I stopped playing a decade ago, and that was going into year 8. So it's like, it's just the money and the way it's gone up, and from the TV contracts, from gambling, from everything you look at, I mean, you knew at some point it would go up like this, and maybe there was past players who in the 90s watched players in the 2000s were like, oh my gosh. I mean, back then it was more about how much guaranteed money or how big the contracts got on the originally rookie draft salary scale. So when you saw Sam Bradford's deal, when he got $50 million guaranteed as the number 1 overall pick in the last deal of that, a lot of veteran guys weren't happy about it. Now, where they were short-sighted about it was if a guy who had never played a snap in the NFL was going to get paid $50 million guaranteed in a contract, if you were a veteran, you had all sorts of leverage because all you had to do to the team is go, well, he hasn't thrown a pass yet. He doesn't have a stat yet. He's getting paid that. That's the floor of my negotiation. And a lot of teams didn't like it because they actually thought it accelerated what you paid quarterbacks or top-end players, DNs, tackles. It accelerated it faster because every single year you had a star player from college who had never played in the NFL who was pushing up whatever that top contract was. It wasn't an older veteran player, a guy who'd been proven in the league, who had to reset the market. You had help from the rookie class. Well, that CBA back in 2011, that basically completely crushed that model of forcing these numbers up this high faster. So I would actually make the argument, had they kept the old rookie draft salary pool or lack thereof, this would have happened sooner.
So the gambling aspect that you pointed out, is it fair to say, because I mean, this is how and this might be a little bit controversial, but I think, give credit where credit is due. There's a lot of guys out there in the NFL, Calvin Ridley, Jamison Williams, who you point out the gambling impact on the NFL and some of these contracts going up. Is it fair to say that some of this was on the backs of guys like Calvin Ridley and Jamison Williams who sacrificed playing time, and in the Calvin Ridley case, a year of his career, because he was providing revenue to these gambling sites in order to get his fellow NFL players paid? I think he should get a cut of this, to be honest with you. Former teammate of Trevor Lawrence, I think it's only fair.
That's a great theory. It is a great theory.
I'm just saying, look, it's part of his money is why this sport is booming. If we're going to give credit, we got to give the proper credit. That's the way I look at it.
Are those really the poster childs? I mean, wouldn't you want someone else who actually gambled more and maybe he isn't even able to play any longer? I mean, Calvin Ridley's still playing.
I know. I can't think of anybody else at the moment now. There was Petit Ferrer of the Titans.
The offensive lineman?
Yeah. It was him. And I want to apologize for anybody else that I haven't named who's been suspended by the NFL for gambling. I want to apologize to you. You deserve credit too. It's just, it's like giving an acceptance speech. Sometimes you leave some names off the list, but those are the 3 that I can come up with right now. But all of you are responsible. We are all one in the degenerate gambling community, and I think we all deserve a little bit of credit for Trevor Lawrence getting $275 million at this stage of his career. That's the way I look at it. But again, not everybody's got the foresight to see through this stuff. I will say this, great division to get paid in, all right, as you pointed out. So that's
as we've said it all along, the AFC South is the best of any division. However, they do play 2 games in London now, which doesn't make it quite as advantageous for what you're getting paid. I mean, you get taxed a little extra over there in London compared, so... he'll be giving that a little bit over to the English, to Big Ben.
So is the tax higher if you go play a couple of games in London as opposed to playing in, say, New York or California or some of these other
I believe so.
Places?
Yeah, even compared to really New Jersey is where a lot of the New York teams get taxed on because that's where their facilities are.
That sucks. Well, listen, hopefully he doesn't blow through that money, but everything is going well for
I don't
Trevor
think he will.
Lawrence.
Something's telling me he's not going to blow through that money. Then the question would be, do you think he should get a haircut?
Absolutely,
should he go with the long flowing locks?
Well, I think at some point he's probably going to get it cut. Like Tom Brady looked great with long hair, but at some point he was just like, listen, I'm just going to cut it. Like it doesn't make much sense.